Okay, hey guys. Alright, I'm going to attempt to talk about what we were going to go over at Life Group this past Thursday, and just give me some grace, please, because I've never recorded a video of myself. I am no YouTube. I've never done this before. So, YouTube phenomenon is what I was going to say. Anyway. Alright, so what we're going to do is actually, if you have a moment, grab your Bible and turn to James chapter 4. We are going to read verses 13 through 17. Now listen, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business and make money. Why? You do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast and brag. All such boasting is evil. Anyone then who knows the good he ought to do and doesn't do it sins. So, first thing to go over there is verse 13. Who's speaking. So this is the book of James. So James is to be believed that he is Jesus' half-brother, who doesn't begin to believe in Jesus as the Messiah until after he was crucified and raised again. And James is speaking to Christians, all Christians, and specifically, especially during this time, was Jewish Christians, so people who were Jewish and then began to believe in Jesus. He was teaching them and describing to them what Christianity will really look like going forward versus Judaism, Jewish beliefs. Anyway, alright, so James is speaking to Christians, and according to verse 13, what is the most important piece that's missing from this business proposal? And the answer then is the Lord. And that what we really should be doing is to make your plans with the humble awareness that God may change them at any time. So according to verse 14, what is our life like? According to verse 14, it says that our life is really like a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. So instead of making choices based on our own wants and desires, why not try to base our choices, especially major choices, on what the Lord would have planned for you. So yeah, as in verse 15, he says what must be included in our plans. And according to verse 15, it says, instead, you should say, if it is the Lord's will, then you will live this way and do this or do that. I think if you just have, I think what he's trying to say, and I would have loved to have discussed this as a group, but I think what he's just trying to say is, instead of thinking that we are in charge of our life and that we make our decisions, which feels that way day in and day out. It feels like we make our own decisions every day. But just thinking, like putting God into those choices, asking Him, Lord, is this your will? Lord, if this is your will, let this be, the way I do this or do that. So however that looks to you, of course. And then two different sins that James addresses in verses 16 and 17. And that is boasting and bragging, which is evil. So I think that kind of ties in with, if you're making the decisions day in and day out, it'd be easy to boast, because if you've made a good decision, then you're pretty cool. There's room to boast. But if you didn't make that decision and the Lord made that decision, and you just followed, I think it leaves less room for boasting, less room for evil, less room for sin. And then anyone then who knows the good that he ought to do and doesn't do it, then sins. So that's, I think, makes it kind of difficult, if you are going to ask the Lord to show you what to do, and He does, and you know that that's what's good, and then you choose not to, you're setting yourself up to sin. Sometimes His way isn't always the easiest way, and I know that from experience as well. Again, this would have been a great thing to talk about together on Thursday. If you are with your spouse, it would be awesome if you could kind of talk about these things with your spouse and kind of go through it together, and then maybe we can all catch up about it next time we fellowship. So from here, I'd like you to take a peek at the Francis Chan video that I'm going to send you all the link to. And then after watching that video, if you could get with your spouse and just answer a couple questions. This is what we would have, I was going to separate us into gender and go over a few of them by gender and then get back together and go over one last question. But after your video, come back to me and you'll be able to know the questions. I wonder if I could put them down below my video or stuff like that. I'll try to do that too so that you don't have to continually listen to my questions. But question number 1 was, think about some people in your life who have died abruptly. What were some of their achievements in life and what were their regrets? The second question I want you all to discuss is, if today was the day you died, what would you regret and why? What can you change about your life today to avoid these regrets? And yes, the third one that we would have done separately is when Francis talks about being alone with God, how do you respond to those words? Can you relate? Do you walk with God intimately and regularly? Or are your experiences with God usually mediated by something or someone, such as books, sermons, pastor's voice, fellowship, etc.? And then would have loved to have get us all back together and as a group discussed this final question. Francis writes in his book, Crazy Love, the point of your life is to point to Him. Hold on one second. Whatever you're doing, God wants to be glorified because this whole thing is His. It is His movie, His world, His gift. What are you doing right now to point to Him? What part are you playing in His movie? And what gift has He given you that He wants you to use for His glory? Thank you. Give me 1 second, Brayden. Hey, can you please take him for a second? I'm doing a YouTube video for our group, and then I'm going to send it out. Okay, so after you guys discuss that, there is a challenge that I would love for us to knock out and do before the next time we get together. Pretty easy challenge. Don't be intimidated. All it is to commit to memorizing 1 Corinthians 10:31. Oh, kids, he was supposed to be napping. Alright, so commit to memorizing 1 Corinthians 10:31. So whatever you eat or drink, or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Make a conscious effort to live with this verse in mind this week. Be ready to share with your group at your next meeting how this verse changed your routine this past week. And in our case, it'll be probably 2 or 3 weeks. Alright, so that's our challenge. I'm going to send that out so everybody has it. I try to create like a fun background on your phone so it reminds you, so I'll send it to you, but it's not the most beautiful thing. I'm not very tech savvy when it comes to that. And the last thing I wanted to talk about when we were all together is our service project. We, a while ago, brainstormed several different ideas for a service project, and one of them, which I think would be perfect timing to do right now, would be to help Grace and Kyle. Kyle is home for a few weeks, but I'm pretty sure he is like an hour away. I'm not sure I don't know the details of how long he's actually home with his family, or is about an hour away in Yorktown area before he's then deployed again. But since he is at least in the area and he's on land, now would be a great time to give him a care package that maybe he could take with him back on deployment. So that would be one thing we could do, would be to bless Kyle with something for him to take along with him. And also then is a care package for Grace. She's here by herself. I can't imagine what that would be like. However, the rest of you women do know what that's like. So I reached out to her earlier this week, and her and Kyle were going to discuss exactly what they could use to really help them out during this time. Her and him are still discussing, and I will send a list of ideas out to everyone as soon as they've given that to me. But something I was thinking is, whether it's food, clothes, headphones, books, magazines for Kyle to take with him, whatever he wants, something like that. We could maybe all chip in and get that care package put together for him. And then for Grace, maybe she needs a night out. Maybe she needs several nights out. Maybe she needs a babysitter to do that. Maybe she needs a gift card to a massage therapy session. Maybe she needs tickets to go see a movie. I'm not sure exactly what she would love to go do on her own, but something along those lines. And then plus maybe food. Maybe we could drop off some food for her. Maybe some freezer foods so it's just ready to throw in the oven on a day that she doesn't want to cook anything, but yet has a healthy meal for her family. Maybe gift cards for her and her kids to go to the zoo or the aquarium. I'm not sure what it all looks like yet. Hopefully, I already gave her some ideas, but women, girls, if you know what would be so helpful and would be a true blessing for you and for your kids while your husband's gone, let's get together and really bless them during this time, especially since it's their first deployment since they've been married. So I'm sure this is difficult, and we want to let them know we love them. So, all right, this wraps it up. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'm excited to get back together with you. Spring can't come soon enough. Love y'all. Bye.